Sam Elliott's voice is a force in American cinema, a sound so deep and unhurried, it commands attention the moment it reaches you. His voice has elevated ordinary cowboys to legendary status, turned quiet farewells into poetic moments, and shaped one of Hollywood's most iconic presences. Yet, despite having one of the most recognizable voices in film, Sam Elliott spent nearly 2 decades as the man Hollywood almost chose. He was a face everyone recognized, but no one could quite place. A name that left audition rooms empty-handed. While the world focused on younger, flashier stars, Elliott stood steady, slowly building his legacy. His journey was not one of quick fame or luck, but rather one forged by patience, persistence, and an almost unreasonable refusal to disappear. Behind the mustache and deep voice, however, was a man shaped by a wound that never fully healed, a loss that defined his life and his career in profound ways. A father's silence and the wound that shaped him. Born on August 9, 1944 in Sacramento, California, Sam Elliott's upbringing was far from the rugged landscapes that would later define his screen persona. His father, Henry Nelson Elliott, worked for the California Department of Fish and Game, a practical, no-nonsense man shaped by the post-war American ideals of hard work and reliability. His mother, Glenmai Sutter, was warmer, quieter, a woman who kept the household together with a steady and unspoken love. Despite an outwardly ordinary upbringing, there was a crucial silence in the Elliott home, the space between a father who was present but emotionally distant and a son desperate to be seen. Henry's approval was hard to come by. The emotional distance created a wound in Sam that would take decades to understand. It wasn't cruelty that defined his father's approach. It was simply the absence of warmth and encouragement. For Sam, this lack of validation became a quiet, lingering ache that influenced everything that came after. Displacement and self-discovery in the Oregon wilderness. When Sam was 13, his family moved to Portland, Oregon, which only deepened his sense of not belonging. Portland in the late 1950s was a city of rain and quiet, a place that didn't offer the excitement or the connection Sam craved. As a lanky teenager with strong features that didn't quite fit the conventional idea of beauty, Sam found solace not in school or friendships, but in the Oregon wilderness. Nature, with its vast, open spaces, was a sanctuary where expectations fell away, and Sam began to settle into himself. In the quiet of the hills and trails, he found a sense of peace that his father's home couldn't provide. The outdoor landscape became a place where Sam could truly breathe, free from the social pressures and expectations that loomed over him. It was in nature, away from his father's influence, that Sam Elliott began to understand who he was and what he wanted from life, a path that would eventually lead him to the screen. The struggle to pursue acting against his father's wishes. At the University of Oregon, Sam Elliott faced the first true confrontation with his father. Sam had discovered a passion for acting, a calling he could not ignore. It wasn't just a passing interest. Acting felt like the core of who he was, something that resonated deeply within him. Watching westerns as a boy, he was drawn to the performances that felt real and authentic, unlike the formulas Hollywood often presented. But when Sam expressed his desire to pursue acting, his father, Henry, could not understand it. For Henry, work was tangible. Acting was uncertain and frivolous. The disapproval was not loud or explosive, but steady and unwavering, a quiet certainty that Sam's dream was a mistake. This disapproval created a deep divide between father and son, with Sam ultimately transferring to Clark College in Vancouver, Washington, to work jobs more in line with what his father would have considered acceptable. Yet, despite the pressure, Sam couldn't shake his calling. Acting wasn't a backup plan. It was his purpose, and nothing could make him forget that. A move to Hollywood. The struggle to be seen. By the mid-1960s, Sam Elliott made the bold decision to move to Los Angeles. Arriving without connections, money, or the confidence many others had, he was driven by the same stubbornness that had kept him going for years. Hollywood at the time was not welcoming to newcomers, especially those who didn't fit the mold of the leading man. Sam was too intense for light comedy, too reserved for mainstream drama, and too unconventional for an industry obsessed with polished stars. He took any role he could find, bit parts, commercials, and small television appearances that barely made a dent. For years, he fought against Hollywood's tendency to typecast and overlook him. Those years, while necessary, were brutal. Sam survived them by sheer will, accepting roles that kept him afloat while he fought for his moment. He waited tables, worked odd jobs, and showed up to auditions where rejection became routine. It wasn't glamorous. It was exhausting. But Sam Elliott's refusal to quit was becoming as legendary as the roles he would one day play. The passing of a father and the legacy left unseen. In 1970, Sam Elliott's father, Henry, passed away. It was the cruelest kind of irony that Sam's father, the man whose approval Sam had spent his entire life chasing, would never live to see his success. Henry Elliott had died before his son's career could take off, before the iconic mustache became synonymous with the cowboy legend, before the world learned to stop and listen when Sam Elliott spoke. The man who had shaped Sam's early life with his coldness and absence never got to witness the man Sam became. That loss, that unhealed wound, remained with Sam. It shaped his approach to life, making him quieter, more determined, and resolute in his pursuit of success. The lack of approval from his father became a driving force, not breaking him, but pushing him forward in ways that made him more immovable. The boy from Portland, overlooked and dismissed, refused to stop, even when the world refused to see him. Living in Hollywood's almost for 2 decades, Sam Elliott's 1970s were defined by one word: almost. He had been close to recognition, to landing the roles that could have made him a star. But the industry, for all its proximity to greatness, never quite gave him a seat at the table. He had appeared in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid in 1969, but his role as a minor character, a background figure in a film that was dominated by Paul Newman and Robert Redford, had meant little in terms of career advancement. Hollywood didn't recognize the value Sam brought to a role, not because of lack of talent, but because he didn't fit into the mold of the new Hollywood hero. Sam Elliott wasn't searching for himself. He had already found himself. His presence was solid, timeless, and strong, but in an era that embraced existential self-discovery, Sam's quiet authenticity didn't fit. He became a fixture in television shows like Lancer, Gunsmoke, Mission Impossible, and the FBI, but these roles were often forgettable. He showed up, delivered, and disappeared. He was always capable, but never quite enough to break through. The waiting game. Persistence in the face of rejection. In Hollywood, proximity to greatness does not always translate into success. Sam Elliott learned this lesson well. The 1970s were not a period of triumphs, but of survival. Sam continued to land roles, small ones, brief ones, not the lead but still a part of something bigger. His mustache and voice, which would later define him as one of the most iconic actors in film, were already present, but they weren't enough to make him stand out. The industry didn't know what to do with Sam. He wasn't the conflicted anti-hero the world was falling in love with. He was too solid, too straightforward. But Sam Elliott was never passive. He didn't wait for the world to recognize his greatness. He simply kept moving forward. When Lifeguard arrived in 1976, it gave Sam his first leading role. Although the film didn't make him a star, it proved to Hollywood that he had the depth and the presence to carry a film. It was a modest success, but for Sam, it was a validation of his persistence and his belief in himself. The world might have taken its time to catch up with him, but Sam Elliott had been patiently waiting all along,